The State of Insights Q1 2024. And this is the report that we've written, and it's based on the third wave of a survey we've conducted with the various people around the world who are connected with NewMR or with friends of NewMR. So it's important that you bear in mind who we've spoken to create this survey. Each of the waves has got about 300 people. They are predominantly researchers or consultancies. There are in each wave about 50 research buyers. There are just under 50 suppliers to the research industry. So the fieldwork companies, the software companies, people like that. And then a sprinkling of other types of people, including a small number who prefer not to say. We write this survey using the MRS guidelines, which have got quite extensive rules about making sure that people have the option to prefer not to say. So we're going to take that into mind when we look at this, and also the region. Over 2/3 of the data comes from Europe and North America. And that actually is a slight understatement in terms of where research is done in the world in terms of dollars. It's something like 70% of all the research, 75% of all the research dollars in the world are spent in North America and Europe. So whilst it doesn't reflect the headcount across the world, it does actually reflect where the balance of research is paid for. So the key question in all three waves, in June last year, in September 2023, and now in the most recent wave, is how optimistic are you about the state of insights and research using this smiley scale? And the first point to note is that it's been incredibly consistent across those three waves. More consistent than you might expect just by randomized noise. So I think we can be pretty sure that there has been no change across these three waves. Overwhelmingly, we see that people are optimistic. They're either optimistic or very optimistic. But it's important to remember that persistently there are people who are pessimistic, very pessimistic. We know that in our industry, there have been layoffs, there have been business closures. So just because a lot of people are optimistic doesn't mean that everything is okay. We do need to think about the whole industry. If we look at different groups within the data, and I've averaged this over the three waves, we see that really there is very, very little difference in optimism, pessimism by Asia versus North America versus Europe. There is very little difference between the research consultancies, the suppliers to the industry, and the overall total. There is a tiny difference, and across the waves, it would appear to be significant because it's happened every single time, that the research buyers, the research users are slightly more optimistic than everybody else, but not by a long way. The big pattern is that things are really quite similar across the industry. So if you are somebody who is neutral, if you are somebody who is pessimistic, you might want to think about what are your circumstances that are causing you to feel like that, and why do so many other people seem to be relatively optimistic? The two key questions after the optimism question are, what are the most positive things happening in the research world and the insights world at the moment, and what are the most negative things? And so let's look at the positives first. And I started off doing the analysis by using a word cloud just to give me a first look at it. And very quickly, you can see all those green references to artificial intelligence. There's a little bit about data quality in blue. There's a little bit about people in pink. And we've got some stuff about the industry and decision making, the importance of insights. But really the big thing was AI. And it was AI in the last two waves too. The next thing I did, I've developed a tool called ResearchWiseAI. and it will automatically go through the data and create themes. So I did that as my next step. And it comes back and it says, yeah, overwhelmingly, AI and technology advancements are seen as the positive thing. This adapting to change and innovation, a lot of that was AI related as well. But there is this increased value and importance of insights. We're getting more demand and engagement from clients, and the industry is beginning to embrace the human element. So all of those are really positive. They are similar to the previous two waves. Here are some of the comments that were pulled out of that. So slightly over 50% of all the comments linked to AI or the way that insights are embracing change in technology. Here are some typical examples. The capabilities offered by AI to save time, money, and donkey work. AI has improved the quality of insight and cost of doing business. Large language model has revolutionized the way qualitative data analysis can be done. So this is looking for and commenting about things that are happening, which is quite interesting. And then the accelerated go-to-market strategies, really very positive. It's similar to 2023, but it's even more AI focused than the previous two waves. There were some lesser themes, which I mentioned earlier, and I'm just going to highlight again. People do feel that compared with, say, 2, 3, 4 years ago, more people are valuing insights, that there are more clients who are becoming engaged and understand the need for collaboration, and more recognition that the human element is really important in this process. What about the most worrying thing? As you can see again from the word cloud, lots of references to AI. We've got data quality, we've got budget cuts, but AI, synthetic data, coming through really strongly. We asked ResearchWise to do that theme extraction. Biggest theme by a long way, artificial intelligence. Then, of course, budget constraints. Yes, data quality. Yes, client perception. This interesting one, lack of expertise. So over a third of the comments listed AI. AI in the hands of people who don't have critical thinking skills. A blind belief in AI, worsening working conditions, agency side, stagnant pay. In regards to AI, I'm very concerned about synthetic data and how it will be used. So we're seeing a lot of concern about artificial intelligence. Then we move through to what sort of learning are people looking for in 2024? 2/3 of everybody mentioned artificial intelligence in the context of AI and programming, AI and qual, AI and data analysis, AI and business, all sorts of connections. There were other things. People are looking to improve their qual skills in general, their data analytics, their professional development. So the big picture, people are optimistic about artificial intelligence. People are also worried about artificial intelligence, and people want to learn about artificial intelligence. Almost all the other messages are being drowned out by the focus on artificial intelligence at the moment. And that's quite interesting. I've spoken to lots of event organizers and publishers who are worried that they are overdoing AI. And frankly, I don't think they are. At some of the webinars I've been speaking at recently, we've had 600 attending one, 900 attending another. There is an absolute hunger for more information, driven by this dual, it's the best thing and the worst thing that's happening at the moment. Now, that is the stuff that we put in every wave of the study, but each wave we have a special topic. And this time it was, what do people want improving at face-to-face events. Face-to-face events have made a great comeback in the last year. Lots and lots of them. 2024 is going to be fantastic. IIX Bangkok has just finished, and that looked as though it went really well. So what are people looking to improve? Well, the first question I asked people was, what do you eat? And 75% of people say, well, I eat most things. I eat meat, I eat vegetables, I eat fish, no specific exclusions. Then beyond that, of course, there are vegetarians, the fish-eating pescatarians. There are some people who have very specific style. So they are trying to be low on carbs, or they're trying to eat more Mediterranean, or they're trying to eat more fresh fruit. They're trying to avoid fatty foods, whatever. Then we have allergy concerns and specific health concerns. Then we have religious diets where people are not allowed to eat something in particular. And we have vegans. For event organizers, one of the things you need to think about is that about 25% of people do not want mainstream meat and standard food. There are things that are required beyond that. And about 17% want some form of vegetarian, pescatarian, vegan. In many cases, of course, it's easier with that group to go vegan and therefore be able to collect all of the groups together. 14% of people specified they'd got an allergy, and the top ones were dairy, gluten, and seafood. So again, just stresses the importance that 1 in 7 of the people attending your event are likely to have some sort of food allergy. Next question we asked is, what do you drink at events? So this is during the daytime, but also during the receptions and the get-togethers and the social side. Overwhelmingly, you've got to have water, tea, and coffee, not surprisingly. Wine and beer are quite popular. But I'm going to highlight a couple of other aspects. 25% of people, even at the social events, do not drink alcohol. 24% of people want a low-calorie drink. For some people, that will be a low-calorie alcohol drink. For others, it will be a low-calorie soft drink. We asked people whether they have challenges in attending events. A bit like the omnivores, 75% no specific challenges. There were 3 larger groups of people who do have challenges. The first of those is hearing related. And if you've got hearing problems, particularly if you wear hearing aids, it's really hard to isolate the speaker's voice from other noises. Hearing aids, for example, don't focus sound, they amplify sound. So they amplify all the distracting noises just as much. A lot of people talking about different aspects of neurodiversity, but the most common was the people who get overwhelmed by crowds, people who need a quiet space to be able to go away and just be by themselves, or to be by themselves with a small number of other people who are by themselves quietly, in order to be able to reset and go back into the main part of the session. And the final group related to vision. So some people found that lighting made it hard for them to see things properly, sometimes even to travel around. If the lighting in parts of the exhibition or in parts of the social environment wasn't great, it made moving about not too good. If they were too far from the screen, it made it hard to see things. And if presentations had small fonts, it made it hard to see things, even if they were close to the screen. We then asked people, what would you suggest to event organizers if you could speak to the organizers? And the first thing was networking opportunities. Lots of people want improved networking opportunities. But this included quite a range of interesting things. Some people wanted there to be much longer breaks so that people didn't have to be in the presentations. They could be mixing and and getting to know people. Some people wanted opportunities to be set up, but others wanted forced mixing, where you are told to go and meet these people, or you are put into groups and given exercises to do interactively. We should also bear in mind the point we made earlier about neurodiversity, that some people would actually find it really stressful to be put in a situation where they felt they had to speak to strangers or in front of a crowd. Content quality, people wanted better content. That's not surprising, but they meant different things. So a lot of people wanted shorter content, but some wanted longer, 45-minute pieces. Pretty much everybody said no sales pitches. Some wanted case studies, some wanted theoretical studies, some wanted studies with outcomes. So yes, we want more quality, but it requires a lot of work to make sure you're matching the expectations of a specific audience to what is on offer. A lot of people talk about interactive and engaging. So a lot of people are saying if they go to the event, they want to feel that they have done something, not just been voyeurs watching the process going on. Now, that can be speakers involved in the audience, but it also means the equivalent of breakout rooms. I think with online conferences, we've got used to having breakout rooms in Zoom. Can't we have breakout rooms more in face-to-face events, discussion circles, things like this, some practical sessions? And people mentioned inclusivity and diversity. So the first way this presents is the speakers. Can we make sure that we have got a good gender mix, a good mix of ages, a good mix of backgrounds, of regions and of places, but also what can we do to increase the diversity in the audience? Can we get more younger people in the audience? Can we get people who would struggle to be able to afford to be able to go to that? Can we get people from other parts of the organization? So not necessarily just the researchers, but the people in the back room doing a lot of the work. Could we get those attending the events as well? So what is the so what coming out of this study, out of the events part of the study? It's not just about the majority. About 75% of people are relatively well catered for. But beyond that, we need to think 10% of the people in our industry are pessimistic. What help and support should we be offering them? 25% of attendees at events don't eat mainstream meat meals. 14% of attendees have allergies. 25% of people don't drink alcohol. So when you have that evening reception, it's really not acceptable to have a wide range of wine. And then if somebody asks for a soft drink, say, oh, I think there's a bottle over there somewhere. 24% want low-calorie drinks at the events, not only water. 25% of people have challenges, hearing and mobility. And of course, it's not the same 25% who don't eat the mainstream, who do have challenges, who want low calorie and who don't drink alcohol. So probably most of us are in a minority in at least one category, one case. And these large minorities are something that event organizers should be doing, looking after, if they want to thrive in the increasingly competitive world. It would be quite impossible to go to all the major events that there are in 2024. There are too many of them in too many places to go to all of them. So event organizers really need to take this on board, not just from a justice sense, but actually in terms of financial sense too. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to any questions. At the end of the session, you will be taken to the NewMR website and you'll be able to download the report if you want to. I'll be putting a link in social media. There'll be a link in the next newsletter as well. So there'll be lots of ways of downloading the report, which has got more information in it. So with that, I would like to see if we have any questions. Okay, so we've got a nice comment here, which I'm going to pick up as a question. Interesting that data quality shows up in the positives and negatives. So in the positives, it is things like the Global Data Quality Initiative, lots of people recognizing we have a problem. They're trying to do something about it. That's the positive. The negative is the reason why those things are happening is that we know that there is a really large data quality problem and it needs to be addressed. So I think that is why we're seeing it in both sides. Yeah, I think one of the interesting things, if we have a qual-quant event, is that we're mixing very different personality types. And some qual researchers are like the stereotype, and some quant researchers are like the stereotype. So creating situations which work for them is better. It's an interesting point here. Yes, you can say to him about, so should things be more niche? I think that an event really has to appeal to some people more than others. So I'm not sure I would go with the word niche. It has to have a special attraction. Now, if you are the MRS, if you are SMR, if you are the Insights Association, part of that niche is big. That in itself is a niche. On the other hand, you get things like one of my favorite conferences, the Sawtooth conferences, where they really focus on modeling, conjoint, discrete choice, and things like that. And it's great to be in the company of people who are interested in exactly the same thing. So interesting question there about AI. It is going to reshape our industry more than the internet did. There are going to be some great things and there are going to be some disasters, and there are some people selling snake oil and there are some people doing really innovative things. So it's going to be a bumpy ride. I would say get your feet wet, but don't dive into the deep end at this point. The hospitality choice, I think one of the most interesting things that so there's a comment in there, hospitality choice of that talent, hotel venue staff, very important. I was at an event recently where I was really quite angry. There were no low-calorie drinks. I drink low-calorie drinks. There were no, almost no non-alcoholic drinks at the reception either. And so I complained to the organizer, who was appalled because they had organized with the hotel that all of these were going to be available, and the hotel had not delivered. So yes, as you need to choose the hotel, the venue, you need to give them a good briefing, and then you need to check that they're delivering it. So yes, someone's asked, can I read out the questions? And they've said it to everyone. When you put something in the chat stream, if you send it to the host and panelists, only I see it. If you send it to everyone, everyone sees it. So I think I have read out those questions. If there are any other questions, then we could tackle them shortly. The video is going to take, all right, somebody's put their hand up. So if you've put your hand up, there's not much I can do other than say, oh, actually, we've got some questions in the Q&A as well. That's probably what you put your hand up about. So I haven't looked at the regional preference in terms of drinks and events. So that's a really good question. Was there any regional pattern in terms of preferences for the drinks and events? The MRS B2B conference used to have a session where participants worked in teams in the afternoon to address problems. This was dropped a few years ago, but it was a very creative way to meet people and thinking about an industry. At the AI forum in Amsterdam that the SMR organized, and I was the lead host for that, we actually had most of the afternoon set apart for tables where people took on board the presentations from the morning and the early afternoon to work out what does it mean, what action should we take, and so on. And that, again, was another useful way of getting people together. And certainly before even the MRS B2B, we had the big conferences, and those were very good for being interactive. In terms of data quality, what are the practices in new market research do you do to level up the quality of data? Can you elaborate more on some of the research methodology? So we do very little research at NewMR. The research we do is mostly with the industry, and we do the standard things there about checking for duplicates, looking for nonsense. We use anonymity. We abide by the MRS and the SMR codes. More generally, I would say you need to be looking at the work being produced by the Global Data Quality Initiative. Several of the really interesting town halls that have been held by the Insights Association in the USA. If you're working with panel companies, then have a look at the SMR questions. Go to the SMR website. Lots and lots of the panel companies have already put their answers. But you absolutely have to check the data that you receive yourself. There's lots of advice out there about putting in questions and types of questions that are more likely to reveal that there are problems with the data. You need to put in open-ended questions, and you need then to check to see whether or not the open-ended comments are unique, whether they're sensible, whether they're relevant. People are starting to use ChatGPT and other generative AI to make that process of checking better. It's not super easy, and it's going to be a moving feast because the people who are putting the fraudulent data in are also using new techniques in order to do that. One of the interesting things about data quality that the Global Data Quality Initiative has already identified is that about a third of bad data comes from bad questionnaires, not from fraud. Questionnaires that are too long, questionnaires that are too boring, questionnaires that are not clear enough are generating a lot of the bad data that we collect. And this is often particularly apparent when you look at a survey and the data in the first 10 minutes of the survey is clearly very good, and the data in the last 10 minutes is clearly very bad. That is mostly your fault, not the participant's fault. So that, I think, is all of the questions. Thank you for your time. Final shout out to all of our sponsors, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye for now.